Guess I better put my glasses on so I can read it. What do you think, Jack?
Good move, Michael.
Meeting come to order, please. The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the annual meeting notice was sent to the press at Down Beach, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, on the municipal website, filed in the office of the municipal clerk. Would you please turn off all electronic equipment as we do the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Becker?
Here.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Here.
Commissioner Blumberg?
And for the record, Commissioner Blumberg is visiting colleges. He's not in attendance today, taking his two daughters to visit colleges. So I wanted that to be put on the record. Thank you.
First item up for discussion, we have a guest today, Carrie Sargent from the New Jersey DEP, who's going to make a 2-minute presentation.
Hi, good afternoon. Monica Coffey with the Sustainable Margate Green Team. I wanted to just give a little further introduction before Carrie gets started. I had read, I think it was Twitter, about some non-competitive grant funding that's available for communities to do community forestry management plans. And I had called for more information and spoke with Carrie, and she had graciously agreed to come down to one of our Green Team meetings and made a presentation to the 18 or so people that were in attendance. And everyone was really excited about what she had to say and some of the programs and opportunities that could be available to Margate. So I asked her if she would take another trip down and give you a condensed version of that same information. So on that note, turn it over to Carrie.
Thanks, Monica, and thank you for having me. My name is Carrie Sargent. I'm the state's Urban and Community Forestry Coordinator. Every state in the union has one, and we liaise between the U.S. Forest Service and local governments, such as yourselves, to help local communities manage their community forests.
Get a little closer so we can hear you.
Manage their community forests so that they are, what I like to say is healthy, safe, sustainable, and resilient. So the New Jersey Community Forestry Program got its start in about 1980, but really started to make headway in '96 with the passing of the Shade Tree and Community Forestry Assistance Act. And that act was passed in response to the fact that many towns were having their shade tree commissions and tree boards disbanding because of liability issues when it came to managing trees on public property and incidents that may have happened. So as part of the act that was passed, if a community has a community forestry management plan that's approved by the State Forest Service and participates in the State Forester's training program, then all the shade tree volunteers, in this case it would be your Green Team volunteers working with the tree resource, receive actually complete immunity from liability regarding any tree issues that could come, as long as you're showing proactive management. It also allows the community and yourselves to set yourselves up for defensive tort claims, in that having a plan in place and acting to implement the plan, whether you currently have budget dollars there or not, shows your due diligence and your ducks are in a row, and you get to avoid those costs. So as part of this program, what we do in community forestry, we receive a federal core funding every year. And I can allocate some of that towards grants for the communities, and we put those dollars towards the development of community forestry management plans. Currently, the funding is $3,000 for a plan, and we ask for 100% match. That match is easily made up, especially here because you have such a large and engaged green team. With the independent sector volunteer rate, you count the green team's meetings, the other municipal staff engagement, and it's no sweat to meet the match. And most consultants and certified tree experts and consulting foresters who write these plans know the grant rate and are willing to work with you on that. A lot of consultants will also, for a little extra dollars, be able to predicate their plan upon an inventory so that you're actually knowing what you're managing, which is critical. And it's actually the big push that I have from the community forestry in the next 3 years, is to make sure all the towns that have community forestry management plans have inventories. The second component of the program is once you have approved status under the program, you have the management plan in place, and you've taken part in the training, you are eligible to apply for additional dollars provided from my program for the implementation of your plan. So April 12th, we just wrapped up the deadline. I had available $2.3 million in grants available for the implementation of your plan. The grants ranged anywhere from $10,000 to $300,000 so in support of inventory, tree risk assessment, resiliency planning. For y'all aren't as concerned, but folks in the north, you have to do ash surveys and start to worry about mitigation for emerald ash borer. We had a $25,000 grant for risk mitigation, and tree planting grants ranging from $30,000 to $300,000. For the implementation and to access other funds in the grant, the very first thing that you do have to do is get an inventory in place, because we want to make sure that the decisions that you're making and that the funding that I'm giving is is based on what you know you have and what you intend to do. We all know the benefits of trees. I mean, if you step into a place and you feel it, you know intrinsically that trees are important. But a lot of times in communities, it comes down to dollars and cents. And it's been proven that trees give you a return on investment. So anywhere from $2 to $5 on every dollar invested in the upfront maintenance and care of your community forest will give you other benefits down the road. It's saving you by knowing what you have up front, dealing with it, addressing it, and then not having to pay out on the other end. In shore communities like this, one of the biggest cases and one of the newest components of the plan that we're integrating is working with your local emergency management offices and getting your community forestry management plan linked to debris management plans, so that you know what is there and what are you going to do in the event of a storm and you have, what FEMA would call debris, which are trees everywhere. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to pay to send it to a landfill, or are you going to get paid by local loggers that you have in place and sawmills that can come and utilize what you might have because you've set aside the staging area, because you've been able to call in tree experts to help you do an urban forest strike team, after the storm event. And then you have also had your opportunities for recovery identified, and you can be first in line to get those dollars because you've set yourself up for your response. So you're ready and you're responsive. Some other examples of, there's studies that show a 40-year net benefit of $232,000 for 100 healthy trees over 40 years. So trees pay off. And I'll be honest with you, coming down Winchester, you guys need people proactive in looking, because what I saw there are hazards everywhere. There's London plane trees under power lines. That's number one. The London plane trees grow to 100 to 120 feet tall under the power lines. And then whoever did the pruning job, it's actually improper pruning that's setting you up for improper structure and increased failure under wind and hazard conditions. So you want qualified people here making informed decisions and healthy management choices so that you're more resilient in the long run and you're getting more return on your investment. So I think that should cover it all quick, and if there's any questions.
Any questions? I'm good. Anyone have any questions?
I just wanted to send me some information by email, especially that liability issue. You said there's a grant out there where the city's not liable?
Okay, so it's not the grant, it's actually an act, it's the
For the
shade.
tree. If the
Yeah.
tree raises the sidewalk, somebody trips.
Well, you have to be a member of the
Right.
Shade Tree USA, right?
No, you don't have to, it has, Tree City USA is a separate program from the National Arbor Day Foundation that helps you promote your work nationally. So what the Shade Tree and Community Forestry Assistance Act does is that for volunteers, a shade tree commission or volunteers working with the tree resource, as long as the community has the approved management plan and the training in place, those volunteers receive immunity from liability.
The volunteers.
Yeah, the volunteers. For the municipality, what it does is it helps you get your ducks in a row under Title 40 in the Tort Claims Act, or 39, whatever the number is.
Close
So
enough.
that, yeah. So you have to show reasonable action and steps if something does happen. So if you have an inventory in place and you know where your trees are, and one of the things that you consider as part of your inventory are where are there tree sidewalk conflicts, and you are saying, okay, we know that these are the areas where there's tree sidewalk conflicts. We might not have the budget to deal with it, but we are working towards it. The courts look at that, and I'm not a lawyer, but we do have the case law and things in place that show you, they look at that and they say, oh, well, they're working on it. They're not being negligent. They're actively engaged in managing and having attention drawn to these things. And so they say that they're acting on tort claims.
Okay.
So that's what that does. But yeah, I can give you, the act's on our website, and if you give me your email, I will.
Mayor just handed
look
me
at-
everything. I'm sure Monica will make sure.
Right. I think the last 2 pages of that big packet, the law might be there, so.
Thank you very
Yep.
much.
I just wanted to mention that developing the community forestry management plan at the same time that we're going for a master plan update also has a lot of benefits, right?
Yeah. It's, no matter what issues you're facing in the tree world, we always like to say trees are the answer, right? You have increased heating and, cooling costs. The shade will bring you reduction in energy expenditure. So you're having stormwater management problems. Well, trees will intercept the water and help with infiltration. There's everything, they connect to everything. There's even, the social benefits. They show that kids that grow up and play in areas with trees have reduced symptoms of ADHD. Areas where there's high rates of crime, that gets reduced if there's trees. There's all sorts of studies out there that we can give you. So, they're a living component of a community's infrastructure that actually can bring you benefits beyond what you might think. All right.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much, Carrie. And Monica. At this point, we'll start department head reports. Ed, why don't we start over this side today?
Okay. Everyone should have gotten a copy electronically of the report. The first item, we did receive an additional $32,639 from the Atlantic County Improvement Authority for another handicap accessible location, and we filed the application a few weeks ago for the next round, so we're on track for next year. The Lagoon Drive storm sewer repair contractor is scheduled for June 2nd. It'll be a relatively simple process, and it'll be interesting to watch because they'll physically go in the pipe, they'll inject foam in any faulty joints underwater, and then the only thing we'll have to do is I'll have to get with Frank to fill the depressions in the yard in with stone, of similar type landscaping stone. Our current road program, the 2016 road program, there's a resolution on the 5 o'clock agenda to go out to bid. With that program, we will go out to bid with anticipating starting work on that in the fall. Let's see. The 2015 State Aid Award, which we received for Winchester Avenue from Jerome to Granville, That survey work is scheduled to begin next week, and then as soon as we have the survey work, we'll get the design. Once the design is in place and we go out to bid an award, and the money is in the budget for that, we can then put in for a 75% reimbursement of the $196,000 that we received as a grant for that road. Okay, the Union Avenue drainage investigation, we've observed the tides several times. We have a tide, there's actually a relatively accurate tide gauge up by the Margate Bridge on Jerome Avenue. There are times when we have, for example, I guess it was last week, we had a flood tide where the tide elevation is higher than the street, so there will be flooding. In the meantime, we had attempted to block it with sandbags. That seemed to alleviate it to some degree. I brought a fabricator out there 2 weeks ago, I guess it was. Maybe we had a real heavy rain, which we've had a lot of. He and I met out there. I observed the existing storm drains that are there, not counting that box culvert. They appear to be adequate to handle any rainstorm we have, short of a very high tide rainstorm. So had the fabricator out there, and what we're looking at doing is installing a piece of channel in a U-shape within that box culvert, and we're going to fabricate an aluminum slide gate with a gasket so that we will be able to keep that shut off, but in the event that we needed to open it, we would be able to pull the slide gate out and open it. It should be a relatively inexpensive item. I'm waiting for his cost estimate so then I can bring it back to commissioners to get it authorized. But the intent is to close it off with a mechanism that could be opened if we needed to for some reason. That way, it's the best of both worlds as far as I'm concerned. So that, as soon as I get his estimate, I'll get back to you, and then I'll get him to fabricate it and we'll install it. The Washington Avenue storm outfall, that's the one where the valve actually broke the pipe off at the end. I also had him look at that. We sent him over a design to fabricate a spool piece for that. I'm waiting for that price back from him also. Then we can, I think we're also, that was actually as a result of Winter Storm Jonas. So once we have that number, we can put in to FEMA for it. The current road program that's under construction, let's see, we have Harding Avenue from Monmouth to Winchester is done. Final paving's complete, looks good. Amherst Avenue from Harding Avenue to Winchester to Washington, the road program portion is complete. The state aid portion is also complete with the exception of some punch list items. The contractor, Ferriazzi, was out there today working on those punch list items. Monroe Avenue from Monmouth to Winchester is complete. Baycrest Court is base paved. And Harbor Lane, the water main and sanitary sewer complete. Concrete curb, gutter, and under drain system is approximately 95% complete, and road work is scheduled. Actually, they were scheduled to start possibly today. I haven't been out there, so I'm not sure. Our existing, the two beach bulkhead access projects, that's all done, that's complete, that'll be going away. And South Jersey Gas, we had a meeting with the gas company representatives this afternoon. They have a number of services they need to complete. There are many that they have not been able to get into the houses because the people are summer residents, so the service installations will probably go on all through the summer. There'll be isolated locations, one here, one there. It'll be a minor inconvenience, but we have no choice. We need to get this done so that in the fall, the gas company will come back and repave all the streets that were disturbed under this, I think it's phases 7 through 11. So it's been going very well. We had a couple hiccups in the beginning, but they've been very cooperative. The contractors have been cooperative. So today was a logistical meeting. We'll continue to meet with them. The chief was fine with everything with them. If we have an issue, they will come in and meet. Actually, they suggested the meeting today. It was not my suggestion. They wanted to meet to fill us in. And I believe that is pretty much everything I have that's active right now.
Thank you, Ed.
I'm sorry, the Washington
That was
Avenue
quick.
building. We met with the contractor today, it's progressing. By midsummer, they should be complete.
Good comment. Frank?
Two weeks ago, we had the beach cleanup through Clean Ocean Action. We had a decent turnout. There was between 40 and 50 people, and it went well this year. This weekend is the citywide garage sale on Saturday and cleanup on Sunday, which our department will be going around picking up anything that's left over from the yard sales. Our beaches are in great shape. We have them cleaned up. We have a couple more things to do. The beaches are just huge this year. It's just unbelievable. I've never seen it that way. So next week we'll be placing the igloos that we have just purchased on the beach, and the beach will then be completely set up for the season. Our gardeners are still in the process of planting flowers. Our streetscapes have been planted already, and we're trying to catch up with the rest of the Marvin Gardens and the Parkway with flowers. That's all I have.
Thank you, Frank. Chief Devasso.
I have nothing significant today, Mayor. I did want to make mention.
Thank you, Chief.
I did want to make mention of one thing. About 2 weeks ago, we did not have, I don't think we had department head reports, and we had yet another Narcan save. And it's unfortunately an epidemic in the area, and I'm just fortunate that we are able to help. Thank you.
Good job, Tony. Thank you. Chief Wilson.
As I'm sure you're aware, to the chagrin of a lot of people, the lights on Atlantic Avenue are now back in regular operation. So we're just been prepping for Memorial Day weekend. The sign crew is busy, traffic maintenance is busy. We're freshening up some yellow curbs, and of course getting the signage up. So that's a big thing to get out of the way. And the men and women in the department is getting geared up for the summer. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Deeney.
Our audit has been complete. There will be a meeting coming up with myself and the finance director. They're going to give us a briefing on the results of the audit, and it will be presented to you in June publicly for your edification and the edification of the public. The commissioners have asked me, since I've returned, to take a fresh look at the 2016 capital plan. I'm in the process of doing that and meeting with the department heads, and we expect to be able to reduce the amount of money that was initially anticipated to have to be spent in 2016 for capital purposes. And so I'm pleased to report that publicly to you today. Financially, we're going to sell bonds, as you know, was reported by the finance director at the last time. Those bonds will be dated for the first or second day of July, and we're on schedule to be able to sell those bonds. That's permanent financing for expenditures over the last 4 years, capital expenditures. It's according to the plan that you had previously adopted, and so there's nothing out of the ordinary with respect to that, but it will be taking place in July. So we'll hope to be able to get really good rates. I had a little concern today because the projection is, I heard today that they may be raising rates, but the Federal Reserve may be raising rates in June. But we'll still get a very, very low rate because of our bond rating and because of the general economy the way it is today with respect to rates. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Mr. Abbott?
Mayor, a number of items real quickly. As you know, we have the ordinance for changing the water hours that Frank had, the department had championed, and that will be one of the ordinances that you'll be voting on today. I have submitted to you by email, and I want for your consideration, we have a couple of properties along the beach that where the owners would like to make the same deal that we made on the south side of Rumson Avenue, which is to say, acquire ownership to a strip of land in return for the construction of new bulkheads on the ocean side of the city of Margate, replacing exactly in the same spot the deteriorated bulkheads that we have. To that end, I've prepared a memo for you to consider. I also have one ordinance drafted for the one that is on the northeast side of Rumson Avenue. Not asking you to vote on them tonight. This is one of those things I think we ought to take it real slow, get his input from as many people as possible. I know there's a lot of concern, but we have these strips of land, as you know, and for the public's benefit, that are between the bulkhead and the actual property line. In some instances, they're just trash area and weeds. In some instances, people utilize them as a part of their home. In any event, just about all of them need the bulkheads replaced. Our bulkhead estimate, when you include engineering, permitting, contingency, we utilize a figure of $1,475 a foot. So every time we make an arrangement with one of these beachfront owners to get a brand new oceanfront bulkhead built to current flood ordinance standards, the city benefits. And of course, eventually those lands become taxable as well. So you have a memo, make sure you have it. I attached several surveys to it that Mr. Ponzio is in the process of finalizing for subdivisions. I have the one ordinance for the one gentleman who's ready to go forward on his transaction. And that's, it's taken a lot of effort to get to there. Okay, next topic, one that's near and dear to Commissioner Amadeo's heart. I've sent you the draft of the light ordinance. As you know, we have apparently some individuals in the city that are less than fully considerate of their neighbors, and so we've had to go through the difficult task of trying to regulate light. That is something most communities, although they say it can't be a nuisance, it really has to have teeth in it. We're trying to get teeth. We've also had Dark Sky Associates, which is an international organization, is giving me input, and I hope for some more input. It's difficult to regulate lighting, believe it or not, especially LED lighting. But we're moving forward, Commissioner. You have a copy of the draft. I think we ought to put it up next meeting to initiate the ordinance adoption process. So we'll have that. I promise.
Scott, I want to thank you for all the hard work you did on that. I know it's been an arduous task to really define reasoning of how to make it enforceable, but we do appreciate all the work you did on that. Commissioner, you've been somewhat relentless on this one. I better get that damn ordinance done. I know, I got the message.
Okay, I'll ease up.
All right, another one now. I just recently got this, and I'm not going to burden our city clerk to say vote on this tonight. Gentleman at Knight Avenue in the beach has a bulkhead. There's another one of these. The bulkhead is not on this property. It's immediately adjacent to the ocean side. He wants to replace it. It's technically on city property. The DEP needs the city's consent. I have the LURP files, Land Use Regulation Program forms that need to be signed by the city. I have a draft resolution. I'm going to ask you to sign that resolution at the next meeting after it's been posted. Right, Joanna? That's your instruction to city clerk. You are correct, and it will be, but in the meantime, we have another beachfront owner who wants to build 62 and a half feet of bulkheading that technically is not on their property. And I know a government entity built it at one time. I presume it was the Army Corps. Anything else? Does anybody have any questions you want to ask me?
I think you're all talked out today, so.
I know I'm talkative. I can't help it. I've been that way since I was born. But any questions you have, I'm here.
Thank you, Scott. Johanna?
We had the parking lot auction. That was successful. That resolution to award them the spaces is on today's agenda. And we had our rabies vaccine clinic past Saturday, And that was not as successful as past years, but there were dogs vaccinated and a cat. Other than that, things are fine.
Thank you, Johanna. Roger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The planning and zoning inspections are really heating up right now as people are trying to move in their places for the summertime. That along with concrete inspections. The master plan work continues with the post-Sandy Phase 2 grant, and that's really going to be coming to a head within the next several weeks and the coming months. Look forward to wrapping that up this coming fall. And continuing to meet with many residents to resolve issues that are normal day-to-day stuff to you and me, but means everything to them. So happy to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. You notice how you are no longer Roger 2. You've advanced in hierarchy. John?
Mayor, thank you. I just want to mention to the public and to you that we received, the building department received a letter yesterday in reference to the demolition of the Blessed Sacrament grade school. It's been an ongoing task to get to the point we're at now, but the diocese sent a request to the building department, which I want to grant with your permission, to extend our moratorium, which is June 15th, to give them an additional week. They plan to start the demolition of the school on May 23rd. They do believe they'll have the demolition done by the 15th, which is in the timeline that our ordinance states for the moratorium, but they're requesting an additional week in case they do run into any issues and to be able to have the property totally cleaned up. I think it's important. The building's been vacant for several years. There's a lot of broken windows on the first floor. I think it's unsafe condition the way it exists now. Not that it's going to collapse, but kids can get into the building. So I want to proceed with the demolition and grant them that timeline. And that request did come from the Diocese of Camden for the benefit of Holy Trinity Parish. Are you on board?
I'm good.
So we'll proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, John?
Nothing else.
I'd just like to reconfirm something that Frank said. Frank and I took a tour of the beaches a couple days ago, and the beaches are absolutely big and beautiful. If any of you get a chance, just walk down there and see what it looks like. It's absolutely amazing. Anyone else have any other comments? If not, we'll open for public comment, 3 minutes on any subject that was discussed here today. Please come forward to the microphone, your name and address.
My name is Ken Rose. I was here in October on the North Union Avenue issue. I'm really sorry.
Ken, may I have your address, please?
509 North Union. I was really sorry to see how much work and effort went into this project. I was very disappointed that the remediation didn't really do much for us this winter. I was lucky. All I lost was landscaping. I'd say on our street, the expenses were about probably in the area of $5,000 due to flooding this year. The remediation that you're talking about now, putting a valve in this chute that goes into the bay to take rainwater off, seems to be a lot of money and work for nothing. You stated that the existing through the bulkhead rainwater drain was sufficient for the street. If you say that, that's fine with me. I agree. All we have to do is fill in the chute for $200. You can fill it with urethane foam, end of story. I really, to put up with this any longer, I understand the level of the street is low, but where the chute is, as that is at the level of the street, the soil level is above that. So it's going to take another 2 feet of tide to get into the street or over the bulkheads. Otherwise, we still have flooding. And I hate to see you spend any more money on this project than need be.
The money that costs to build what we're talking about is probably close to what it would cost to have a mason go out there and fill it in with brickwork or block. The other problem is the street end is actually privately owned. That is not, once you get past a certain point, that's privately owned, that's not owned by the city. So we don't want to infringe on the private property with the concrete. So by doing it at the face of it, and it's a simple procedure, it's effectively will do what we need it to do, but in the event that we needed to drain that street quicker when the tide goes down, we'd be able to pull that valve out. There are the elevations of some of the flood tides we've had over top, there is no bulkhead there. It's just a stone.
I understand that.
It overtops that on several occasions this year. So no matter what we do, when those tide, like for example, maybe, what was it, a week ago we had a flood tide, or a couple of weeks ago? There was nothing, when you get a flood tide like that, there's nothing we can do.
I was here during that flood.
Right. And for example,
it did
winter
not
storms.
go over the soil. It came only up through that chute.
Right.
It did not breach the bulkheads either. And this is what I'm talking about.
Sure, understand.
90% of the floods that we have could be prevented, and it would be very simple. I have a question for you regarding the ownership of the property. I was under the impression it was owned by the city of Margate. Are you telling me that it's owned by someone else now?
Yes.
Who owns that property?
It's half owned by Carter, and I believe half owned by the Earls. It was the
Earls
street
own
end.
half, but I was under the impression that Dave Carter got the use of the land to keep people off of it that were bothering his property, and that the city still owned that.
As far as I remember, about 15 years ago, it was vacated.
Okay, well, Scott?
We should check that.
Okay.
Okay.
I wish you would.
Yes.
We will do that, and we will get back to you promptly, okay?
I would hope so, because the delay in this is, we're talking about now a street flooding every high tide on a full moon. No doubt about it.
Does it come up through the ground too?
It comes up through the street where
Doesn't it come up through the lawn?
No, it doesn't come up through the lawn. It comes up through the street because the street is destroyed.
I have a file on that property, and I will look with you.
Check to see what,
Okay, we'll do
We'll
that.
look. We'll look at who owns that street end.
Okay,
Yeah, I know the Earls own half where the city put in a drainage pipe that goes into the pay with a valve on it. But as far as I know, Dave Carter takes care of the ground. He did not want it because he was afraid one day he'd have to put in a bulkhead.
okay.
All right?
We'll get back to you.
yeah.
Okay.
Do you have my phone number?
I do.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'll call Mrs. Glass and get him. Good morning. Anyone else?
Carla Glass, 512 North Union. I'd also like to address the flooding on Union Avenue. I have lived there, this is my fourth summer. I'm a full-time resident. My first year there, I never saw water in the street, never had flooding issues, had some bad rainstorms. I can tell you with pictures, with videos, that every time we get a major rainstorm, regardless if it's a full moon or a high tide, the street is underwater. This last storm, I lost my garage door because the water was coming up so fast it pushed it in and damaged it. During this winter storm, I lost everything in my garage and everything on the first floor of my house, including a washing machine, furniture. The street is a mess. The street is like the red-haired stepchild of Margate. It hasn't been paved, it hasn't been repaired, it's patched. I had the front of my driveway patched. All they did is dump some black gravel into it. It wasn't even smoothed out, it was just dumped, and they left. So I had to drive over it with my car to flatten this out, which is now sinking. I don't know why the street is ignored by this city. I feel like we're less than, we're not really part of the city anymore. We pay quite a bit of taxes to live on the waterfront. I appreciate living on the waterfront, but I think the city has to come down there. I think all of you need to come down there and look at the condition of the street and what happens when it floods.
Thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
Frank, can you go look at that tomorrow? Okay, thank you. Carla, Frank will come by tomorrow, look at that, okay? So, all right, thank you. Anyone else?
Sue, 22 West Drive. 3 quick questions. I hate to sound like the Grinch, but that Narcan funding, I think it should be reimbursed. I'm sure Medicaid or one of the other groups would pick up that cost. The taxpayer should not pick it up. And I think that the Narcan for second and third uses should really be scrutinized and include the total cost of dispatching a rescue squad to that location. Question for the city administrator. Do I gather that this bonding on July 2nd or 3rd is a refi of some sort on old bonds?
No.
This is new bonding for new expenses?
It's not new money appropriated, but your question was, is it a refi? It's not a refi for old bonds. It replaces notes. We're out now paying interest on notes because we borrowed money against anything that they've appropriated over the last 4 years. And now we're going to permanent financing, which would be about a 13 or 14-year period of time. So it's not new money. It doesn't replace old bonds. It replaces current notes.
So in effect, it actually increases our bonded indebtedness, am I correct?
No, it doesn't. Our bonded indebtedness is only created by ordinance by this governing body. The ordinances have already been created. We borrowed the money short-term. Now we're borrowing it on a long-term basis.
On the basis of a municipal bond?
On the basis of a municipal bond.
Well, does that not increase the bonded indebtedness?
No, because notes are already part of the bonded indebtedness.
He's got you on a word there. It's going from note to bond.
Okay.
It's no increase in indebtedness, but it's transferring from a note, which is of short term, to a bond, which is of long term. Right? And the city is taking advantage of these
Low rates.
rates. So it's not new indebtedness. Got it?
Sort of, kind of.
Okay.
Last but not least is the mayor's remarks about the beautiful beach. I can assure you that come Memorial Day, you'll have enough fecal matter out on that beach to turn your notion of a beautiful beach into something rather different. And I strongly urge, Mayor, that at long last, we have a stiff enforcement of dogs defecating on the beach and irresponsible owners not picking it up, Mayor, especially for older gentlemen with compromised immune systems. The E. coli 0157 is a deadly, lethal bacteria in canine fecal matter.
Thank you very much, John. Anyone else? Did you want to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, John, your question on the billing. The city does bill for transport to the hospital $650 per patient. As far as the Narcan goes, we'll absorb the cost if we're going to save a life. A life is more important than the $30 the Narcan might cost.
Well, what's the harm in billing?
The $650 covers the patient's cost for our EMTs to deliver them to the hospital.
What's the harm in billing for the Narcan?
We're not going to overcharge.
Oh, please.
Mr. Warner.
Steve Warner, 103 North Sumner Avenue. With regard to the beach, the increased size of the beach, I happen to be doing a job at Chelsea and the beach in Atlantic City, and I can tell you where Margate Beach came from. There's a beach bar. Last year, the beach was 100 feet, 200 feet long in front of the beach bar at Chelsea Avenue. Well, now it's gone. and really the surf is almost up to the beach bar. So it's been transported to Margate, so we can thank Atlantic City for the beach, the extended beaches.
Please extend our gratitude next time you're there.
I will. And if there was anybody to send it to, they haven't been paid for about a month now, and the employees, which I'm sure we're all working hard so that doesn't happen here in Margate. And I just want to say, if the anti-dune people, if they want to go up to Atlantic City to see what some of these access to the beach, the ramps to the beach for the handicapped and all, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to look to see what the government did. And really, they're excellent, and people can get to the beach much more easily. The handicapped people can get to the beach much more easily than they can here in Margate. If you see the ramps that they built in Atlantic City, they're really first class. And I guess the last thing was, we still haven't gotten an update on the dues. Are we going to get an update what's going on? Rich, you were going to tell everybody, or no? You don't know anymore?
The only update I can give you is I believe June 1st is the final date for appeals, and it'll be, once that passes, it's over.
That's it.
It's the middle of June.
June 18th.
I'm sorry, it's June 18th. It was clarified,
Okay.
June 18th.
Well, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
They all emptied out. Union
Steve Altman, 9003 Amherst Avenue, Margate. If I may ask Mr. Deeney, if that date is passed, will the state begin working on beach, whatever, this summer, or will they wait until after the season?
That won't be.
There's no way it will be done this summer, no matter what.
Okay.
They would have to go out to bid. There's 45-day bid periods, and they have to do specifications. No, it's not been authorized at all.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Is there a motion to close public comment?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Thank you all. We will take a short 5-minute break, and we will continue on.
That's the headquarters. It used to be 100 yards in back of the water. It's now under that. That was the northeast.
Hard to believe.
Here's the north end of Atlantic City, from Steel Pier to New Haven.